Hey y'all, welcome back to the Tree Stareback podcast, or welcome if you're new. We are a spooky storytelling podcast. We talk about literally everywhere.
Literally everything that
I think we started with Appalachia, but it doesn't just
We did Sweden.
Yeah, West Virginia, which technically is Appalachia.
Mm-hmm.
Today we are going to be in Tennessee. And where is our story from that we're reading from a viewer?
Let's see. The story from the viewer for this week's episode is, if I could pull it up right here,
Buffalo, New
York, which is also still in Appalachia.
Is it?
Yeah. Upstate New York is in Appalachia.
Oh, I know, but are you sure Buffalo is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm Googling that.
You Google that. Yep, right there. Because Buffalo's right there next to Toronto. Everything inside that red dotted line.
You know what? Fair enough. It's right on the cusp.
Uh-huh, but it still counts.
Okay, so yeah. So I guess we're doing...
Welcome to Appalachia, Buffalo. Thanks for the sauce.
Oh, buffalo sauce. I was like, what are you talking about? You know, for the longest time, I thought, like, buffalo sauce was meant to be eaten on, like, buffalo meat. And that spiraled me into, do people eat buffalo? I'm pretty sure they do.
Well, you can eat bison.
Is that the same thing?
They're all bovines. They're very similar.
Pardon?
Yeah, like...
Bovine?
Yeah. Like cows, bulls, bison, water buffalo, regular buffalo. It's all the same thing. It's all like under the same... Like how canines are all sorts of dogs.
My eyes are watering. I think that just spiraled me into an episode.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you have a mental decline on the episode.
Okay, let's go ahead and introduce in the podcast. So on this podcast, we tell scary stories. If you have any stories you would like to send in to us, that will be in the description. Can you put a description on Spotify? It'll be on the screen.
I can put a description on Spotify. So the email will be in the description for Spotify and YouTube, and it's also right here on the screen.
But if you're listening, it is the Tree Stareback Podcast at gmail.com to submit your stories, and we will read them as soon as we get to them. What else? All of our social medias will be linked as well. I think they're linked on Spotify, right?
And we also have a link tree.
Okay, so all of our social medias are there. I'm Morgan. I do social media full time. Eric pops in here and there. I've been trying to convince him to start his own channel, but he hates me.
No.
So he won't do it.
I upload 2 videos a month. What do you want?
So everyone convince Eric to start his own channels.
Bah.
He is starting a series on my YouTube channel this month where you do talk a little bit about.
Basically, there should be a countdown series. We'll be doing a top 5 rating of different things, such as creepiest things caught on camera, creepy stories that you've sent in, creepy things that are in the woods, stuff like that. If you have any recommendations, send it to, I guess that would be your email.
Or yours.
Still.
Whatever's linked.
I don't think I have an email set up for the account.
You should do a top 5 of, like, our creepiest caught on camera things.
Oh, I should do that.
Do you know what you're going to do for the first one? Have you decided?
I haven't decided yet, but I might do that. I might start off with the top 5 creepiest things that you and I have caught on camera.
That would be good. So, last week, we told you guys about 2 different categories that the podcast would be. What did we name them?
It was...
Same nightmare, different location, same nightmare, right?
That's right. So this one would technically be different location, same nitmare. Or I guess it would be...
It'd be same location, same nightmare.
Because it's Appalachia.
Yeah. I love that the discourse is going to be us, like, boxing in one of those umbrellas, like, 20 minutes at the beginning of each podcast. Yeah, so this would be same location, same nightmare. I don't know if the email that was sent in to us, because we don't read them before we try to get live reactions on camera, so I don't know if it's like lore based in Appalachia or if it's like a haunted house, haunted person story. So we'll see. Yeah, we'll find that out together. But to start off this episode, I want to talk about a very haunted tunnel in Kingsport, Tennessee that I actually introduced you to.
Mm-hmm. And this is the Sensabaugh Tunnel.
Yes. So there's really nothing written in stone. It's kind of like a passed down legend, the way a lot of small towns have haunted stories. So there's a few different theories on what happened to make this tunnel so haunted, but there is a main story that most people believe. That's what I believe happened, and I'm gonna tell it. I'm gonna tell you the story of the Sensabaugh Tunnel. So I'm going to have Eric insert pictures on YouTube. Obviously, if you're watching, you can't get the full effect. So what I'm going to do, if you're not watching, if you follow me on Instagram, I'm going to post, whenever this goes live, a carousel of pictures I've taken of the tunnel so you can go look at them.
Because we've been so many times and we've dragged so many friends there.
We also, if it's not too much trouble for you to tag in the YouTube description, we live streamed there using like the Spirit Talker app. So, and we filmed it and it's all on YouTube. So I'll have that linked as well.
We got it, yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, let's get into the lore. So, what you need to know before I get into this is there are technically 2 tunnels. There's one that you drive through, and there's a road over that you walk through. And most people, if you're talking to them about this tunnel, they'll say, okay, it's the big drive-through tunnel. And it's not.
To be fair, that one is closest to the house at which the story happens.
Well, yeah. The story's kind of strange, and like I said, it's up for interpretation because it's been passed down, nothing's concrete. And here's the thing, maybe nothing happened, but so many people go there and are so scared when they go that something has manifested, and that tunnel is haunted as shit.
There's enough energy there, yeah.
So, anyways, let's get into the story. So, at the end of the drive-through tunnel, there sits a giant white house where the Sensabaugh family lived. And when this happened, there was a new baby in the Sensabaugh house. Well, the Sensabaugh family was very rich. It's a big white house. They owned a lot of land. Well, one night a man breaks in, and he decides he's going to take that baby for ransom money. So he gets out of the house. He's running away. They notice the baby's gone pretty freaking quickly. So they call the police. And the police chase this man and the baby into the tunnel. Now, no one really knows if it's the drive-through tunnel or the walk-through tunnel. But what happened to the baby was it started crying, and the man drowned it to make it quiet. So he killed the baby in the tunnel. So both tunnels, the big one floods consistently. Mm-hmm. We had a flooding issue a few weeks ago. Almost whole tunnel was underwater. It was terrible. But also the little tunnel has a river flooding through it. So no one really knows exactly which tunnel it was. I am pretty positive it had to be the small one, because I think he would have gotten farther than that tunnel before they noticed.
Yeah. Well, the big tunnel that you drive through is like maybe 300 feet away from the house.
Yeah.
And the service tunnel, which is the small one that you walk through, is over 2 miles away.
And I think he would have been able to get that far away before they caught him. But the story goes that the police ended up capturing him. Some say that they shot him in the tunnel. Some say he got arrested. No one really knows. But some things are said to happen in both of those tunnels. And that involves baby's handprints appearing on the car. If you drive into the tunnel and turn off the engine of your car, it's said to not start back. They're said to hear screaming, babies crying. What else?
People laughing. Another thing that happens, and this doesn't happen at the tunnel, this always happens on the way to the tunnel. The theory is that as you go towards the tunnel, there will always be a vehicle, usually that is white, and it will try to run you off the road. This has happened every time we've went, and we've been about 6 times at this point.
Every single time. And I will say, I don't think that's like a concrete theory. It's just happened to us.
It's just, it could be coincidental, but it has happened.
Well, it started, and that's, maybe it does happen, but I never heard it involved with the legend. But I started going to that tunnel in high school, and my friend at the time and her mom took me, and her mom used to live across the road from that tunnel. I don't know if you knew that or not, in those apartments across from the creek. So she would go all the time because she loved spooky stuff. And she said every single time she went, a white car would try to chase her off the road. So we waited until late, and we drove there on this night, and there was a white car that tried to chase us off the road. And she was like, I don't know, it just happens every time. And Eric's right. Every single time we've taken different groups of people. It's always happened. And I've gotten it on camera.
Actually, I was wrong. There was one time that it didn't happen to us. So this is what tells me that it's definitely not like a spirit or anything driving the car. It's not like a fake car. I think something happens and it just causes a white car to almost cause an accident, because one time we went when we had a white Chevy sedan, and we didn't get driven off the tunnel, but I accidentally almost got into a car accident with someone that was driving in front of me. I almost ran them off the road.
So, like a timeline glitch. I actually remember us talking about that now, because one of us made a joke, like, we've become the white car, and I was like, that'd be such a good freaking book, which I still want to write. But, yeah, you're right. Maybe it's some sort of timeline glitch or something. I had a whole theory going at one point that it was, like, locals that hated people going to the tunnel. So it was just, like, one man in a car that
also possible.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is. because the sign right before you get to the tunnel has like red spray paint on it to make it look like blood. I know they get annoyed.
And there's also a lot of people that live near the tunnel. This tunnel is in the middle of like a neighborhood in this town, so it's like there's definitely someone who just like wants to get home, or it's like you imagine it's like you have to get home, you really have to poop, and there's just like there's like tourists,
a gaggle of teenagers.
Oh, look at the tunnel, and you're like, I would do it.
Yeah, same. No, something else that I forgot to mention about the drive-in tunnel, at least, it like curves at the end, so you cannot, it's just dark in there.
Yeah.
Like, it curves such a specific way to where it cuts light, and it's really creepy, and I think that adds to the creepy effect. Do you remember that once? Well, I guess I'm getting into experiences now, but this isn't really paranormal. It was more like a trafficking thing. But we were driving through the tunnel, and there was like a car of men, which is never a good thing to see, stopped on the side of the road. Weren't they in a white car?
No, they were in a black car.
Oh. But they were just like stopped, and they were like trying to get us to stop, and we were so scared.
No, yeah, I floored it out of there.
No, I was like, no. But we've had a lot of experiences there.
Yeah, we have. And we're going to share them with you.
The white car was one. I had a very specific weird encounter with that previous friend that I had.
Exactly. You had that in the service tunnel, the walk-through tunnel.
I did. So it wasn't the first time we went. Her mom used to take us a whole bunch because we loved scary stuff. I've been weird my whole life with scary stuff. But I remember her taking us during the daytime this time. And she parked us because we wanted to go into the service tunnel, because the way it's set up, there's a creek that runs through the middle and then like goes out into a bigger creek, obviously. But there's a path on the side of the tunnel where you can walk through it. And we wanted to walk through it. So she parked us at the end of it, and me and the friend get out. We walk down to the tunnel on the rocks and then go into the tunnel, and we're walking through it. But we get about halfway through, and this couple spawns out of literally nowhere, and they're behind us. And me and that friend are taking pictures, and we're like, okay, let's just let them pass because I don't want to be rushed. So it's a narrow walkway. Yeah. You've seen it. I don't think you've been in there.
I've never been in it, no, because like...
I think it's private property
It's private property now, yeah.
I think it was private property then, but...
It's like, for someone like... If you have like broad shoulders, you would have to kind of like turn in a little bit to be able to walk on it. It's like maybe like 2 feet of like slab for you to walk on.
Yeah. But anyways, we turned to this like guy and girl, and we're like, hey, you can go around us. And they had to like physically walk around us, like one hand on the wall, one hand on the other side of us to cross. But they were like our age, and they were like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. So the guy gets across us, no problem. And the girl's crossing, and she almost falls. And I go to grab her. She is ice cold, okay? And she smiles at me, and I swear to God, jagged teeth. Like, looked like shark teeth. And she keeps going around me. No, I'm worried I messed that up. Was it the guy or the girl that almost fell? It was so long ago.
No, it was her. She almost fell.
Was it? Okay. I literally cannot remember now.
Well, they looked very similar. Like, 12 years ago?
Yeah, I remember them looking very similar. She had red hair, and he had, like, short, dark hair. Anyways, so that happens. They get across us. They go to the end of the tunnel, and we assume they're going to circle back, because the tunnel literally, like, the walkway goes a little bit outside of it, and you're just surrounded by woods and that creek, and there's nowhere to go. Like, you would have to step down in the water, like, you're stuck, right? They never come back. And by the time we're at the end of the tunnel, like, they wouldn't have had time to really go anywhere anyways, but we look around, and they are gone. Just gone. And so we're like, okay, that's weird. So we turn around and go back the way we came. We go out of the tunnel to her mom's car. And we're like, hey, did you see 2 kids go in there? There was no kids. She was watching the tunnel the whole time. She saw nothing of what we saw. She didn't see them go around us. She saw what we thought we were talking to each other. Like, there was no one in there.
See, I couldn't. I would have immediately started crying.
I think we both did.
Oh.
But it's just the way I physically touched them. And this whole time I was like, okay, that was like a spirit. If I physically touched it, I don't think it was. I think that was something else.
It was definitely, well, it had to have been corporeal. But then again, it also vanished, so...
Or did it just sprint or something, you know?
Could be.
I mean, it was just really weird, and I've never been able to go back in that tunnel. Granted, it is, like, private property now. Now I'm a little bit less gutsy because I'm an adult and can be charged for adult crimes. But it's a little bit different than when I was 15 and 16. But I just remember being horrified, and that is not the only experience, though. like, that is the only time I've went in the tunnel, but we have stopped at that tunnel several times, and something happens every single time.
Every time something a little bit happens. Some have been better than others, but with the first experience that we happened, it was the time that you and I went there. This is the first time I went there, the first time you showed me. And
I've always bestowed this upon everyone.
I might be mixing up some stories here. What exactly happened the first time you and I went? Because, like, was that the time that you and I went and we got a picture and we saw, it was like a skull in the walking tunnel?
I don't think that was the first time. I think it was the second. The first time we went was when the white mist charged. Or am I wrong?
No, the white mist happened whenever we were with Michael in Auburn. That charged us.
Yeah, we're going to mix up timelines because we've been so many times. Yeah. We've been charged at by a white mist because we always park and look into it. We always go at the nighttime. And we always park and look into it. And there's always a white mist that appears out of there and just charges the car. Yeah. And it's happened almost every single time.
And I just want to go ahead and state, there's a lot of fog in this area because not only is this walking tunnel, like, at a river, across the street from it, there is an enormous river, like, next to it. So there's always a lot of fog. This white mist that charges us is, like, extremely opaque, and you can see it rushing towards the car.
Yeah, it literally looks like a freaking polar bear charging.
Yeah, literally.
With no real shape. But that happened. Anytime we go, I'm kind of stupid, and I'll just take pictures. Because I'm like, something will show up in these pictures. And it usually does. And there was one picture, I can send it to you to insert if you want to. We caught what looks like a skull in the picture. Mm-hmm. People have also analyzed that picture and seen what looks like a child in the background of it. Yeah. One story that sticks out to me, though, was we went with our friend Michael. Was it when we took Michael?
We've taken Michael.
I think it was. This was him for sure. Okay. Something had happened. We almost crashed. And I remember randomly snapping pictures away from the tunnel. And I got this picture of a fence. And there's this rock that wasn't there in real life, but it's in the picture. It looks like it could be a rock, but anyways, when we analyzed it, it looked like my grandmother. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to put a picture of my grandmother on here, but I'll post a picture of, like, that.
Of what you call it, yeah.
But my grandmother had short, light hair. She always wore a checkered pink shirt. Literally, I have so many pictures of her in that shirt. Mm-hmm. And she had a hump on her back. And that is exactly what that looked like in that picture. And I've always taken it as she was trying to protect us. Mm-hmm. That's what I've always taken it as. And I think that was one of the most unnerving things. Because it was so clear to me that was her.
Yeah, no, it looked exactly... It wasn't it looked just like her.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of... I know we've had other things
So, happen. The white mist chased us with one group of friends. I'm not even going to pretend like I know which one, but the white mist chased us with one group of friends. But then another group of friends that we took, another mist chased us, but this one was black. Yep. Yeah. And, like, it rushed out of the tunnel. Like, so whenever you're facing the tunnel, it's like you're on the road, and you're like...
And this is the small tunnel.
Yeah, this is the small tunnel. You're on the road, and you have to park on the road. And you have to look out your window to the side. You can't park forward and face the tunnel. This thing rushes out of the tunnel towards the car. I always floor it, and then we can look in the rear view, and it's just chasing us.
You know, in retrospect, we literally spend our entire online careers telling people not to run from stuff, and we run every time. Maybe that's why we get chased.
That's fair.
There was one other... so the footage that we have on camera...
This was the most disturbing one.
Yeah, because you heard a woman screaming, right? And no one else could?
Yeah, we heard a woman... I heard a woman screaming.
None of us heard it.
Because I was outside of the car.
And I'm going to say the name, even though I recommend no one do it. But we were using the Spirit Talker app, and right after that happened, we were driving away, and, like, it said Skinwalker here. Like,
yes, it said Skinwalkers nearby.
Yeah, and it's all on camera, on that footage. But I just thought that was really strange because you heard her scream and none of us heard it.
No, I heard a woman scream, and of course it sounded far off in the distance, which means that it wasn't. Yeah, we're going to insert some clips. Something else that happened while we were using the Spirit Talker app was we drove past the small tunnel first. There's two ways you can get to the driving tunnel. You can either drive past the small tunnel first, or you can take this back way towards it. This time we had stopped at the small tunnel first, and we had the Spirit Talker app, and it said something like drown.
Mm-hmm. Which in the legend the baby did.
Yeah, that guy drowned the baby.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, then we drove up to the other one. It was like skinwalkers near. There was something else really creepy that it said. I think like whenever I heard a woman scream, it said something like she's upset or something like that.
She's coming. She's coming. It said she's coming right as you were like, because we were in the car and we had the app and it said that as you were coming in. So it said that at the same time as the scream happened. Probably. I think I'd probably need to go back and rewatch that footage because I'm not sure of the timeline.
Do we want to put some? Oh, we're just gonna link the footage. Right?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll probably just link that instead of like going through and picking it. I think that'd be easier.
Yeah, so if you want to watch that, we're going to link it in the description of YouTube, and if you're listening to this on Spotify, go to the Tree Stare Back podcast on YouTube and you can find it there. You can find a link there.
You know, I'll probably put the pictures of the Sensabaugh Tunnel on the Tree Stare Back Instagram instead of my personal one.
That'd be good.
That would be smarter. I'll do that.
Good.
I think that's all of our stories personal from the Sensabaugh Tunnel.
I think, unless there was something else.
There is another house called the Rotherwood Mansion very close. I want to do a whole episode on that.
It's going to take an entire episode.
It would take an entire episode for me to tell that story. So stay tuned for that, because that's one of my favorite haunted house stories, and it is so incredibly messed up. So messed up. But I think that wraps up our talk about the Sensabaugh Tunnel. That took quite a while. I am chatty about that tunnel.
Well, I mean, it's just like there's so much that's happened to us personally. And then there's like there's a lot of other like creepy investigators who have been to this tunnel. Plenty of people who talked about this tunnel on TikTok. I mean, this is such rich in history, but all of the locals will deny it. Like everyone loves to deny that this tunnel is spooky. But,
well, I don't know. I've found it to be where like a lot of times when people live in paranormal rich places, they're like, it was just the wind. Like,
to be fair, I mean, doing that will keep you safe.
I think that's literally what keeps you sane. Because I noticed last night, bonus story, there was a knock on our bedroom door. Loud as hell.
Oh god, like someone was banging on our bedroom door, which was upstairs.
Yeah, and it was so rapid, and so much so that I was like, we need to go downstairs because someone broke in. But I found myself, because you fell asleep first, I was thinking about it, and I was like, it's probably just the cats. Like, I found myself just, like, brushing it to the side so I could sleep. So I do get people doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, it keeps you...
I'm the opposite. I sat right up in bed, and I screamed to leave at the door.
Me, don't acknowledge things. Eric, acknowledge to the fullest extent of the law.
I'll tell you what, it didn't happen again after that.
Okay, let's scatter on to our viewer or listener. Is it viewer or listener? And or. Submission story.
All right.
And they titled this The Jester, and I'm very excited to hear it.
I grew up in Buffalo, which is in western New York. It isn't a forestry place by any means, at least not in the city, but it's remarkably haunted. I mean, yeah, you have the usual haunts like Hotel Henry, the abandoned Central Terminal, and the Rolling Hills Asylum if you go out of your way. But the real haunts are in regular old houses. Buffalo has tons of old houses, ones built in the mid-1800s, Victorian style. Real nice places if you ignore the likelihood of lead poisoning. Real. It's business.
Dude, lead poisoning is crazy.
Mm-hmm. It's like, I don't know, out of nowhere, they were like, hey, what if we put lead in everything?
I think about that sometimes, and I'm like, what's our lead gonna be? It's microplastics.
Microplastics. I got like 2 credit cards flowing through me right now. My old house was one of these types. We moved during the pandemic, still in Buffalo, just a few miles over. Growing up, I didn't really believe in ghosts. I wanted to. I always wanted to believe in paranormal stuff. But I'm naturally inclined to be skeptical, so belief doesn't always come easy to me. Even so, despite my belief, I was extremely scared of being downstairs in that old house alone, even during the day. I've since distanced myself from that feeling, but now that I'm recalling all of it, I can feel it coming back. This incredible sense of dread that something was wrong, even though, at the time, I don't really believe in spirits. Just because I don't believe in spirits didn't mean that I didn't see things, though. For example, throughout the entire life of that house, up until we left, I would see this strange person-shaped thing. I'm not really sure how to describe it. Before I've tried to describe it as the absence of shadow, but that would imply light, right? But it wasn't illuminated by light.
I've heard that described before, that exact thing, and people describe it as the absence of light.
Yeah, it's like
it absorbs, not the absence of light, the absorption of light.
It's kind of like a black hole.
Yes.
It was more like there were regular shadows, and then there was something else. something darker, kind of like an outline but artificial, like it was trying to blend in but it wasn't quite right. Seemingly, this strange mass had a hat, kind of like a Jester hat, one of the ones with the little bells. If you look up Jester hat, you'll see what I mean. Put a picture right here. But there was no color, just the not quite right silhouette, and it smiled, not in a happy way, but not necessarily in a malicious way either. This is just my instinct, and I'm not sure how correct my instincts are in this case, but I kind of just got the sense that this was how its face was. While it was some sort of dark entity, I don't think it was taunting me necessarily, not with its smile at least. To be clear, these revelations I've had about its temperament happened after I started to actually think my eyes were telling the truth, but when I was younger, I just kind of thought that it was a trick of the light. I mean, that trope in fiction where the parents never really believe the kids about the monster until it's too late. My little child mind kind of reversed that into, I'm being ridiculous. There's no such thing as ghosts, and therefore, that is not real and I'm being silly. The funny thing was that even though for years I never thought this was real, I still refused to run. There was this nagging sensation in me that if I ran, it would chase, even when I denied that it existed at all. I would walk slowly up the stairs and not look behind me. When I learned about the rules of Appalachia later, I thought that this was a funny coincidence. I remember that this one time in a sleepover in 5th grade, there were maybe 7 girls in addition to me. At the time, I still didn't believe in ghosts, and neither did most of the girls sleeping over, to my knowledge at least. But one thing I vividly remember... Jesus Christ!
Was that a machine gun?
It's the apocalypse outside. Oh my god.
Is that genuinely a gun?
No, I think that's someone's truck.
You think?
I mean, that's what it sounds like, is someone's truck.
I'm sorry, someone has the mask level machine gun outside and you're like, yeah, the truck.
The mask?
Yeah, you know that she's like, it's Tommy, it's
a
Tommy gun.
Oh, that was a good movie. Okay. One thing I vividly remember is that we were all asleep downstairs in this big room that was once meant for opera. Long story old house. You don't just casually have opera room in your home anyway.
That's sick. That is
cool.
Do you remember that one house we looked at that the famous pianist lived in? And there was like a whole parlor that they used to perform in?
Oh, yeah.
The house doesn't exist anymore because of the floods in Asheville.
Yeah, we were going to rent that house.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, let's see here. We all heard these strange footsteps, uneven ones, close to us, maybe about 10 or 15 meters away. Creeping footsteps, but wrong ones. When you walk, you have a tempo. Even though it can sometimes be thrown off by a limp or something, it's still there, maybe just a little different. But there was no tempo to these steps. But they got closer and closer until we were all silent, even the loudest of us, because we were all hearing the same thing. When they got only a few feet from us, I told my friends it was time to sleep. No one argued. We left the lights on all night. Even so, despite my friends questioning me about it in the morning, I still didn't think it was real, even though every cell and nerve in my body was telling me that I didn't want to hear. The turning point in my belief was when my little sister confided in me that she had been seeing a Jester in the living room. I think by this point I was around 12. At the time, I hadn't really considered that its silhouette looked like a Jester hat, but when I realized what she was talking about, I was understandably horrified. That's enough out of you. During the day, when she was less reluctant to go downstairs, I asked her to show me where the Jester usually stood. She pointed to the exact same spot in the living room as I had always seen it. Anyway, 12-year-old me decides that enough is enough. My sister's refusing to go downstairs by herself, and I can't even blame her. I mean, I was still skeptical, but I started doing research. I found myself some forums online, and the people told me that I was possibly dealing with some sort of dark entity. I was a little reluctant to think badly of the Jester because I didn't like to judge a book by its cover, but even I knew instinctively that it wasn't a good thing. So I did a banishing ritual. Little 12-year-old me, with staunch not-believing parents. I made a brew and got barefoot and put sigils all over the place. Chanted in Latin, banged pots and lined the windows with salt, but it just made it feel worse. I didn't feel cleansed. I felt like I'd poked a bear with a stick rather than getting it out of my house. Then I got sick. Really sick. It wasn't immediately after, but in the months following that poorly done ritual, I fell ill. To this day, I struggle with chronic health issues, which I won't go into, but the point is, I was having issues with getting out of bed. I was pulled from school, and I constantly felt this strange pall surrounding me. I didn't know how to explain it, but after doing research, the term spiritual parasite feels a little more apt. Except I don't know if that was exactly what it was, because it didn't seem to have followed me after the move. Not completely, at least. And I also started to struggle with depression. I remember there were multiple times where I just disassociated completely because I couldn't take the weight of my own mental state at the time. I once walked 2 miles without even noticing what was going on because I was thinking such horrible thoughts. And when I came to, I freaked. I mean, obviously mental health issues can happen regardless of if you're haunted or not. But it did coincide with the failed banishing closely in terms of time, so who knows. And honestly, the voices I had heard when I was dealing with the worst of it, I won't go too far into it, but they didn't feel like me. This went on for a few years. The depression, the height of my illness, and this feeling that I was being watched and sapped of the little I had left. I was in constant pain. I think at one point I weighed 90 pounds. I had looked like a corpse. And then during the pandemic, when I was about 14 or so, we moved. My saving grace. And as soon as we did, I instantly felt better. Not physically for the first year or so, but mentally it was like I had been drowning without even realizing it, and I could finally breathe again. I started to recover physically too. I'm 18 now, and I can usually make most days of school. And even though I doubt I'll ever be truly healthy, I've improved a lot. The most drastic change, though, was that I finally knew what it felt like to be truly alone. And man, did it feel great. How you doing? I can say with confidence that there are no spirits in my new house, and I'd like to keep it that way with all respect to them. Good-natured spirit passers are fine, occasionally, but the fact that I no longer feel like I'm always being watched is such a blessing. I have more stories about that house and other spirits that live there, but I didn't want to take up too much of your time. The other spirits of that house were mostly benevolent, if maybe a little creepy and invasive at times. Usually, though, you could just ask them to give you privacy and you'd feel like them migrate to another part of the house. There's more to that, but I've already written a lot. Thank you both and have a nice day.
Ooh, I want to hear the rest of them.
Yes, please, absolutely send us all the stories you have involving this house. That is terrifying, and that is sad.
It is very sad.
This thing sunk you into a depression?
It's really sad the way attachments can just destroy you like that. Because they do. They, feed on your energy and just take literally everything from you.
Yeah, literally.
I don't like possession movies. I feel like they really demonize anything that's not Christianity.
They really do, don't they?
But I think they really, granted they call it demons. They don't, call it attachments or anything. But they really, most of them show attachments really well. How they just drain you. The Exorcist is really good for that.
The Exorcist is a huge one for that. And another one, I think, is The Conjuring 2. It really shows, just exactly how mentally exhausting a possession or a haunting can be.
Speaking of the possession.
Yeah.
About the Dybbuk box. That one shows it really well.
Yeah, that one is an amazing movie.
But, I don't know. It's different. I guess it's kind of like the same thing, but just different faiths and beliefs call it different things.
Mm-hmm.
But attachments are insane. But it's weird to me because it felt like a very personal thing, right? Because the sister saw the Jester, but it wasn't really affecting her. So I'm kind of confused. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad. But I'm confused on why it didn't follow when they moved. Because it would have been attached to the person that wrote it in.
It could have just been haunting the house. And, the reason they focused on her is because she was the one who tried to banishment. It's this thing was just messing with you. Now it's pissed.
Yeah, maybe. I wonder what went wrong in that ritual.
I mean...
Online forums can definitely mislead you.
I mean, it also, and, this is, not at all, saying she did anything wrong, but it's if you don't believe that it's gonna work, it won't work. You have to have full faith that what you're doing is gonna completely,
because you need that energy for it.
Yeah. It also could have just been an extremely powerful spirit. I mean,
I had that thought cross my mind whenever we were reading it. I was like, if it's not full belief, I don't know if that's necessarily going to be a good thing.
Which, that's not her fault. I mean, she already didn't believe in spirits, and she was 12, so...
Yeah, a literal child trying to deal with all this is, that's a lot. I mean, at least it left now. That's good, and there's no hauntings in this house, so that's good.
Yeah, exactly.
I would recommend putting up protections, though, for sure, if that's something you'd be open to. I don't know where your beliefs stand now, but just to keep you safe, just in case.
Also, even if you, if your beliefs, you can always use, like lavender incense. That's always a good thing for calming spirits.
Yeah, definitely would help.
But no, please absolutely send all the stories that you have from the house, because I need to hear all of them.
Same. What creeps me out, and something that happens a whole bunch, is malevolent entities and spirits will use something that's kind of innocent to disguise themselves. Think of just Hollywood stuff, that's a clown. Clowns aren't supposed to be scary. That's bullshit, by the way. I don't know who started clowns, but they were never meant to be fun. I don't believe that. That is a conspiracy. That was always meant to be terrifying. Clowns are terrifying.
Have you seen Terrifier?
Okay, well, that's not scary. No, but I think there's just something, and it happens with children, too.
No, especially. I mean, because, she didn't tell her parents, but it's if she had, it would have just been
an overactive imagination?
Yeah, an overactive imagination.
Well, no, I more meant, entities pretending to be kids or using kids.
Oh.
Think about when... We're going to do a whole Ouija board episode, but this is the first example that comes to mind with that. We were playing a Ouija board, and Z, who we will deep dive in on that episode. It's going to be such a long episode when we do that.
Oh, yeah, there's so much lore to this story alone.
We were talking to something on the Ouija board, and in the house we were in, a little boy did die, actually pretty tragically. Back in times, okay, this is on a farm in the middle of the Appalachian Mountains, okay?
Late 1800s, something
I don't know when it was. Definitely probably around that time. But anyways, a little boy gets sick. And we now know that he had rabies. For sure, the symptoms he was showing were rabies. But in this farm in the middle of nowhere, when Christianity was huge, they assumed he was possessed. So they chained that little boy to his bed, and he died there in that house. And so we were playing the Ouija board in that house, and we were talking to what the board claimed was a little boy, and then it started doing those little figure eights and moving around real strange.
Yeah.
And it was Z.
It also pretended to be a little girl in that one house out in St. Paul.
Yep, it did. And this isn't related to Ouija boards at all, but do you remember Roaring Fork Motor Trail? When we thought we saw a child in that one abandoned house, and then there was this huge shadow behind it?
Yep.
It happens all the time, using the images of children or using essence, not essence, what's the word? Image of a child?
Yeah, the likeness of a child.
Why are you driving back and forth?
Be gone from here.
What are you gaining?
No, also, it's these creatures of the woods, they'll oftentimes mimic a child crying.
Or a woman screaming.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, outside of paranormal, that's just something that happens in nature. Mountain lions sound like a woman screaming for help, and it's on purpose.
Yeah.
To lure you in there so they can have a snack.
It's honestly just messed up.
It's very disgusting, yeah. But I think that is all for today. I think that'll be a wrap. Please send us your stories, the treestarebackpodcast@gmail.com.
Gmail's going to be in the description.
Yeah, so that we can read them. I'm going to post, as soon as this goes live, on the Tree Stareback Podcast Instagram page, there will be pictures of the Sensabaugh Tunnel for you guys, just in case you haven't seen it, and these are pictures we've taken.
And be sure to check out that video where we went live at the Sensabaugh Tunnel.
Yes, I'll link that on the Instagram post as well, probably.
Yeah.
So that you can get there easily. But check out all of our socials, follow us everywhere. I need to be more active on them, but I'm going to try my best.
This is episode 3.
I'm trying my best.
We're working on it.
Yeah, we're trying. It's a trial and error thing. We're working on being better. But I think that wraps us for today. Thank you guys for hanging out with us, and we hope you're terrified.
Bye.
Bye.